Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and joining me this week we have once again Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, Trevor?
What is going on? Today we're going to be talking about a lot of the big gaming announcements from this last week. We'll do that on this week's That News You Care About as well, I'm sure, but Cameron might not be able to join Logan and I for that, so we'll give Cameron kind of his day here. And I've got some thoughts on Rogue Legacy 2, which I've been playing on my Steam Deck this last week. And I also started rewatching The Wire in honor of its recent 20th anniversary. So those are kind of the topics of the show. So stay tuned or look for the time codes for any of those you're looking for. Before we dive into that, though, a little bit of housekeeping. That Bond show is just about at its end. Our most recent episode that went up was Spectre, so our No Time to Die episode is this week, and then Logan and I are sitting down tomorrow to record like one last kind of like series wrap up, the finale of the podcast. So go check that out over on youtube.com/thatnerdysite for our James Bond thoughts. And Friday Night Dying Light still going strong when Cameron's internet cooperates and lets us get it uploaded in time. But yeah, stay tuned for that continuing to go up Friday evenings as Cameron continues his playthrough of Dying Light 2. This last episode, as as we put on Twitter, was a chunker. If you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. And without further ado, I'll kick it over to you, Cam. Where do you want to start with like the big gaming announcement stuff this week?
I think the thing I want to start with is I want to talk about kind of the Jeff Keighley's Key 3, whatever you want to call it.
Summer Game Fest.
Summer Game Fest. I want to talk about it real quick. Sorry, not real quick, but just kind of go over it a little bit here. It's interesting because I think that we have gained probably what was a I don't know how to put it. I think there has been undue expectations that has kind of been put on the Summer Game Fest because it kind of did take the spotlight for E3 for the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like this year's presentation was pretty underwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, I will immediately agree with you on like people put way too much in the way of expectations on that show because that show has always been underwhelming. There have not been big things coming out of Summer Game Fest, so I don't know why every year it's Lucy pulling the football away from Charlie Brown. Like everybody gets super hyped up for the show, and it's like, I mean, yeah, but it's just gonna be like a smorgasbord of the announcements that the other studios don't want to do themselves that they're going to give off to Jeff.
Yeah, I think part of the difficulty with that is like also like what is it? It's the PC Games Conference still happened. They still did that. They like Xbox was doing a massive thing that they ended up doing this morning, and PlayStation had one a couple weeks ago, and then they're also having another one in a couple weeks. Or I think in July. Sorry. Yeah, I think it's later in July that they. Or no, that's when people think there's going to be.
I don't think anything's been announced.
I'm confusing it for the 25th anniversary of Final Fantasy.
Oh yeah, the 10-minute thing that they're doing for that or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, which is going to be like, yeah, we're working on Final Fantasy 7 remake 2 or whatever. That'll be probably the first looks at that. Really mostly I would say like a lot. Like here's the thing, I don't think it was that bad of a presentation. But I think part of the problem is that people confuse it with the Game Awards, with like what they're going to be getting. They think they're going to get like big reveals that you get at the Game Awards. And I don't know, like I feel like it has always kind of been a prime opportunity to like really knock it out of the park. And I've never felt that Jeff has had he has the opportunity to do it. It feels like for the last 2 years. But it just really has not been a big knockout show like I think people keep on anticipating, because I think there is an undue expectation for like what this Summer Games Fest should be, and it's not an E3 replacement. A lot of like I think that's part of the problem is also like I said it myself, the Key 3 or whatever, the Jeff Keighley Key 3 thing. Like, people have put really undue expectations on what Jeff Keighley is going to be doing when he's surrounded by announcements and conferences that are going to be going on over the course of the summer anyway. That's why he does a big deal, like, to like shout out Geek Week with Netflix. Like, a lot of the stuff that he ends up doing with that for, the Game Fest. But what I found actually pretty interesting, and this is probably the most interesting thing I walked away from, is how that conference that he did, the announcement stuff that he did, ended up not being that ended up being something for the public. But what I really walked away from it being very impressed by was the actual Game Fest that he had hosted in LA. The Game Fest that was hosted in LA, from all looks and appearances and from what people were saying coming out of it, was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So my thought is, it's like, wow, I think Game Fest being a big announcement trailer hype thing, I don't think is there for that. I think what it does do is it does get eyes and ears on the games that will be at the actual presser event. And like I tweeted out, I was like, man, I was so exhausted from work. I didn't even have time for like the FOMO or the jealousy of watching people go to that to the Game Fest stuff. And I didn't. I thought I was like, oh, our friends got to meet each other and see each other. That's cool. And it didn't really hit me until I was thinking about it this weekend, about like all the kind of like different news pieces coming out from that Game Fest, and being like, it's interesting because he basically compartmentalized E3 down.
Yeah, I mean, that's the E3 replacement for this year, because I mean, it's the weird thing that like nobody's really, when people are like, oh, this didn't match up with E3. It's like E3 doesn't do conferences. Like E3 is the convention center and everybody coming together for that. Summer Game Fest is still just Jeff doing his like down of trailers. But yeah, as soon as they revealed that element of it, that like everybody was down there and we're getting to go hands on with a lot of these games and stuff like that, I was like, oh, that's what all of those Warhammer 40K checks are paying for. Like that's what the Summer Game Fest, advertisement festival of things was funding and paying for. Is that sweet, that like almost like mini content / media exclusive PSX kind of thing, with all those those smaller stations and stuff like that we saw. Like that is where all of the money for Summer Game Fest went to, and then it was a handful of trailers and some presentation stuff, but like it was so clearly like, oh yeah, everyone who paid for a spot in this 2-hour showcase paid to have all of that other stuff going on at that physical on-site location. And that is the E3 replacement this year. And it's, still admittedly, obviously a significantly smaller scale, but I think that's like Jeff is basically trying to like revive E3 of the ashes from the ashes into something like that. And I think it's basically like it's going back to like an old school mentality of E3, whereas E3 is going to be like, let's Paxify this and let's, get everybody to pay to come to this thing, and they can play, whatever demos people want to give us or whatever. And Key 3 will end up being like the, exclusive media invite only kind of thing. I imagine that's what it feels like.
It definitely could turn out that way. And I would like that. I think that's very cool. Especially because, but I also think that if with the success that it probably had this year, as far as like, the numbers and everything, I'm really hoping that it did well, because I would love to see him be able to do it a little bit bigger and be able to bring in a lot more diverse levels of voices as far as the kind of like exclusive stuff. Basically what I'm saying is, I hope he opens it enough that like a site like ours could get
a
like
tiny
invited.
little, I can't imagine they would, but
never could. Like, here's the thing, I'm not going to say it would never happen, because all things are possible through God, as It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia psychiatrist episode told us. But that's a weird cut that I just did. That I thought, oh, this will be funny. And it's like there's going to be like 6 people who get that.
I've never seen the show, so I can't pull the reference.
It's okay. It's just a dumb throwaway line that like I've always found hilarious. it's basically somebody just goes, well, first off, all things are possible through God. So why don't you go ahead and jot that down in your little notepad? He says that to a therapist. It's great. But yeah, anyway, but back to my original point was like, like, is it possible someday we could be invited? I don't know, maybe like it's up there with like, slim chances to none. But, you know, hell, it could. I would love to go. I'd love to be able to like just like with how nice it looked. Like, I don't mean like how nice it, when I say how nice it looked, I mean there is the shuffle and hustle of what I observed as somebody who went as like a regular person to PSX the 1 year that I was able to go, and then from what I've observed the 2 times that we've gone to PAX East, or that I've gone to PAX East. Sorry, that you've gone. Have you only gone once, PAX East?
PAX East? Oh, I've gone many times.
Okay, cool. I've gone twice, but both times as press, and there is just a like you got to jockey for position when you're press at when you're at press at PAX East.
It depends. If you are a certain level of press, or like all the PR contacts and stuff, like you'll get premium stuff, or you'll get the like behind closed door demos in a hotel room or something like that. Whereas like if you're general press, like like we were in 2020 or whatever, it's you make appointments with whatever games reach out to you. But some of the bigger things at the show are gonna like be more reserved for the people they know. They're gonna and like PSXs were the same kind of thing. I will say that this on the large scale seemed to be that kind of thing, but for like everybody that was invited was at that level of like we know you, we're gonna give you access to all these demos and stuff like that. It had a much cleaner. It wasn't the like every developer has their own little like a 12-foot by 12-foot spot on the show floor or whatever. It was like, here's the unified look for everything. It's going to be on these these wooden tables. We're going to have big big screen TVs, 4K 8K setups everywhere, and it's just going to be like couple stations for you to play at or whatever. And yeah, it had like, there was, I don't remember, I think it might have been like the last PSX in Anaheim. Like, it had a section of the show floor that was carved out and looked almost, spot on identical to a lot of this kind of stuff. And it was for like the people who, were the real media influencers there or whatever, not the general public or, the enthusiast press or whatever. It was like, oh, you're people that PlayStation knows, and so PlayStation invited you to meet them here at this time so that your audience can be seen playing these games or whatever. It was cool. I look forward to hearing more like hands-on kind of impressions from like the Kind of Funny Games cast and stuff like that of what it was like. But it's all because it also seems like it's what Keighley's been doing for years as part of E3. That was like Judges Week, but it was it was a separate thing that now lives under the Summer Game Fest banner, and had a little bit more presentation behind it.
Yeah.
Any big announcements from that one that really stood out or anything?
I mean, for me, the big ones that kind of stood out a little bit were, I mean, I'm just gonna say it. I'm just so done with any remastering or like bringing back anything having to do with The Last of Us. Out of all the remakes you can remake, like I would not have chosen The Last of Us just because it literally just got a remaster like a generation ago.
I mean,
and you can literally play it for free because it's available. The remaster's available for free. Like, I just get pretty frustrated by that.
I hear that, but I will also say, that's not new at all. Shadow of the Colossus was a PS2 game that got remastered for PS3 and then got remade for PS4. So like it's that same vibe, just kind of like a generation removed. And I think like as people continue to buy these games, people are going to continue to remaster them and be like, oh, we can put a little bit of polishing work in that. The fact that they've made such, strides to say like it's rebuilt from the ground up and whatnot doesn't surprise me too much, because obviously the PS3 was a very different architecture than the PS4 and PS5.
Yeah.
And it seeing it initially, I was like, oh yeah. When I think back of Last of Us, and like I don't remember if you replayed it with Logan and I in the lead up to Last of Us Part 2. If you were one of us,
I don't think
that.
I did. I
Okay.
did not think that I did that.
Like,
because I had literally just like played it for the first time, like not too long.
gotcha. But yeah, like playing the remastered version a couple years ago, like the game still looked good, and so like when I saw the leaked kind of screenshots and stuff before the conference, I looked and I was like, oh, like doesn't look, or like it looks like I remember it looking, kind of thing. And then I saw in the conference itself the side by side comparisons. I was like, oh, I'm transposing what the character models looked like in Last of Us Part 2, and they're much more in line with that for Part 1. I'm kind of I'm not in the same boat in terms of like I don't need a remaster for this, but I will say I'm like not champing at the bit for it. If it's something that is available, through their, PS Premium or whatever, I'll maybe spend some time with it depending on what else is out there this season. But it's a game I just replayed a couple years ago. I don't particularly need to revisit, the original Last of Us, even if it's looking that much better. And obviously that was like the big announcement that, of course, also got its like the wind pulled out from under its sails because of the leak a couple hours prior to the show. But
Yeah.
I kind of agree with, I think, what like the Kind of Funny team said of like, even if that hadn't leaked and that had just been like the one more thing, it's already been rumored a little bit here and there. And I think it is in fitting with kind of the description I gave of Summer Game Fest of like, it's not the big showcase. It's like people just always like, they see Jeff's name attached to it and think it's going to be like the Game Awards, but nothing in the past few Summer Games Fests have suggested that it will actually be like that. So that being like the one more thing or the one big thing to close out the show on, I was like, that's about right. That's about what I would expect, that level of like hype. It's not going to be a God of War Ragnarok, trailer or something like that, and release date or whatever. It is going to be like, here's a game that you've already played probably a lot. It's cool that it's coming to PC now for the the audience that's looking for all those games on PC. But yeah, I think like most PlayStation people who have played it either on PS3 or PS4 and don't necessarily need to hop into it again on PS5. But we'll see.
Next,
yeah.
The other thing I would say is both games that HoYoverse, the makers of Genshin Impact, kind of showed off, both the debut of their Triple Z game as well as the other one that they showed off. I thought were both really cool. I'm super digging the like this idea of I thought that what Genshin Impact did really well for kind of like a fantasy like grinding exploration dungeon crawling game was really cool and very interesting, and I enjoyed my time with it. I know it's very limited with how much time we ended up putting into it altogether, but I had a really great time with what I did, and so I'm excited to see like how these other two games like end up working out. I thought especially the shoot, I forgot what it is, but it's the Triple Z one. The Triple Z one had like some really interesting like designs, and for them to be putting together like a combat action game makes me pretty excited, because the combat in Genshin Impact is really solid. So seeing a focus on that in less of a like grindy out Breath of the Wild kind of looking world does make me pretty excited. I'm pretty stoked about it. So
yeah, I have those pulled up. One was Honkai Star Rail, and then the other was that you're talking about there was Zenless Zone Zero.
Yep, Zenless Zone Zero looks super cool.
I would say we got to that part. Rail. I think that was So I was originally watching like while I was at work, and then work got very overwhelming, and I basically had to
Yeah.
like stop it. And then I went back and like rewatched it later in the day, and then I think even after that I went back and like watched Kind of Funny's reactions to it, or had them had that playing while I was playing like Rogue Legacy or something. And this is very much like, I think all three of those times I tuned out pretty much when it got into that like, oh, we're super anime stuff right now. We're super
Mhm.
anime action stuff. Not ever really my jam. So yeah, I bounced off. And so like when you're like these two games, I'm like, I don't remember. I'm like, I only have that pulled up because I have like the Eurogamer, like everything announced at blah blah blah
Yeah.
presentation.
And then another game that I really dug from what I saw was Neon White. Neon White looks super interesting. The idea of this kind of like roguelite, bullet like a first person. The kind of aspect of the game is it's a first person fighter shooter game, and you're like zipping around heaven, and you're like trying to like clear these areas and whatnot. But you have like there's like some like gift aspects to it. People are saying from their hands on with it, it's a lot like Hades in a lot of ways, from like how the kind of like hub world works, the way that you're like giving gifts to people and talking to people and finding more out about them. Just seems really cool. And honestly, the combat and everything looks really, really funky. Like I'm super into like whatever that is. It reminds me a lot of shoot, what is that game? I literally just played it a little bit ago. Neon Runner or Neon. It's a cyberpunk, like you're a ninja going through. You're on like you're not necessarily on rails, but it is a shoot. Why can't I remember what it's called?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Ghost Runner. Ghost
yeah,
Runner
there you go.
is what it is. Ghost Runner. So it reminds me a lot of how Ghost Runner plays through, and I really enjoyed my time with Ghost Runner. It got a bit too puzzly for my personal taste, but I really liked what I played through it, and like that kind of like action perspective is I'm very excited to check out Neon White when that comes out. And then the other one was I have it down here. Sorry, I'm like pulling through my list of like stuff that I thought was cool. The Nightingale I thought looked pretty cool. I'm not so sure how I feel about it being like a like deck building or whatever they said it was, like with that aspect of it. I'm not sure how that ends up playing out. I'm curious to find out more about it later on. And then let's see, what else did I have here? I had that's it, High Water. So High Water looked super interesting. I thought High Water looked very cool. Like I found like this is the thing that I'm pulling away from Summer Game Fest kind of announcements are like these smaller games are really what's driving my interest for the show and like what we got out of it. And I'm really curious to see more of like and hear more about like people's hands-on experience with these games. If they were available, of course, during the Game Fest. Just super curious to see how it is. And then also another one was let's see here. It was
I think which one was High Water? I'm not seeing
High Water was the one where you're in like a flooded world. It's basically it's basically the world's been submerged by water. And so you have like a raft and a radio and like you're going around that place and like meeting people and like different factions and stuff because like the government like the like FEMA like organization like screw like is like like hoarding all of like the goods and medicine and stuff. And so it's like dealing with like this kind of like post-apocalyptic world with that. Let's see, One Piece Odyssey. Like I'm super excited for it just because I love RPGs and I love One Piece. And like it's an original story from Oda himself, so like I'm very excited for it.
I saw that one pop up. I thought of you and who did you do the
Ian?
Ian.
I did it with Ian.
Yeah.
If a conversational pod was awesome. I mean, that literally is the like episode that like I wanted to talk to Ian about One Piece.
So we created a podcast so you could do that and then did nothing with it for most of the year.
Yeah, that's on me. 100%. I totally take the blame for that. It turns out it's really daunting and difficult to ask people to be on your podcast when you have to think of like a single subject to talk about. It can't be like, hey, I want to talk to you about a bunch of stuff. It has to be like, hey, can we talk about something for like an hour and a half? Just one subject. And One Piece was one of those things that we were able to do that with. And then like I did that with Hamilton, with
Cam Hawkins.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, anyway, but yeah, Street Fighter Six. The debut of Guile. I don't really dig Guile's like how flat his flat top has gotten. I kind of prefer it more as like the not as like bushy and low as it
Okay.
was, but that's fine. That's just a personal taste. That's artistic
I mean,
from my
like,
perspective.
his hair's always been stupid. Like,
I'm not disagreeing with you on that, Trevor. I'm just saying it didn't look as stupid as my memory.
mm,
I'm sure if I went back and looked at original art, it would look exactly like that.
yeah. America Arcadia, I want to speak to.
Yes.
In particular because like they kept saying like Trevor and like so you like your playable characters.
Oh yeah,
Trevor.
no. The moment they're like this character's named Trevor, I was like, oh, Trevor's going to be really into that.
Yeah, exactly. My narcissistic ego. But it did like it like that aside. I like the like Truman Show-esque vibes. This like weird little like future reality show kind of trying to escape the reality show vibes to it. So
I thought that I was joking about the Trevor thing. I saw when the game was playing, I was like, oh, Trevor's going to be super into this, like this kind of like meta level of Truman Show-esque, like escaping a reality game. I'm like, this has Trevor written all over it, and the fact that it's also like a platformer, I'm like, this like I think it's pretty cool. I'm stoked for it. I'm not stoked for it as much, but I'm interested. Yeah. And so I figured you definitely be.
Yeah.
Because it also has like that 60s, 70s retro vibe to it. It's super cool.
Yeah.
And I like the idea that like that world's not like that on the outside.
Yeah.
So it has sort of a no, I don't want to just say Truman Show-esque because I mean that's obvious, but it has a sort of
Pleasantville,
like Bioshock-ish vibe.
Oh,
that
okay.
makes sense. Like not the like dystopian levels of it, where like, oh, society has fallen in this bubble, but the idea that in this bubble is kind of like a time capsule of in Bioshock, it's kind of a time capsule of like the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
And so this feels like because the outside world looks quite a bit more modern.
Yeah.
Than inside this bubble. So I thought that was pretty cool. I'm interested. I like the meta narrative to it. I like that it's like he can't escape. And in my thought, I'm like, why can't he escape? Like, why is it a big deal if one of the contestants wants to leave?
Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought it was cool. What's the other? I have another one written down here. It is.
I mean, looking through this, apart from like Last of Us remake or whatever, like the thing I'm going to remember from all of this is going to be the Goat Simulator 3 trailer, just because they teed it up, and I, like many others, like saw the beach set, saw Jeff kind of announce it's a a long recovery sequel, and then as soon as the trailer starts, I'm like, I remember this Dead Island trailer, and then like it pans up on the guy, I'm like, why are they releasing it like this? It looks distinctly worse than what I remember the Dead Island 2 trailer.
I was
like, these character models look like crap.
Yeah.
What is this? And then the first goat comes in. I was like, oh, okay. It's just a parody of the Dead Island 2 trailer. We're seeing a Goat Simulator game. Got it.
Which is like, man, that is a meta joke from like 6 years ago.
Yeah, that is a joke specifically for the people who watch every E3 like presser and react to it and stuff like that.
So like mad respect to Goat Simulator team, mad respect to Jeff for teeing it up like that. Just great. Let me think here. Witchfire. Witchfire is the other one I want to talk about. It is the fantasy first person shooter where you're fighting like a demonic incursion from hell. And I saw that and I was like, holy, like the way that it's like Inquisition style weapons with like holy, like runic crosses and stuff, but at the same time, like demonic sigils and stuff like that. The way that it's in the gameplay looks tight as hell. I'm super stoked for that. That game looks awesome as fuck.
Yeah, cool. Medieval Doom.
And
similar to that, you have Metal Hellslinger, which is basically like the Doom shooter, but as a rhythm game.
Less interested in that.
Yeah.
Just because like I'm not the greatest at rhythm games.
Yeah. They announced Shredder's Revenge coming next week, and that it's coming to Game Pass. So I was like, cool. I was like, I will check it out on Game Pass.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Yep.
Enjoying that. And like they were like, they teed it up with like announcing brand new thing, and it was like it starts out and it's like, oh, they're announcing Casey Jones. I was like, I feel like that was kind of an expected given that like you're also including April and Splinter in there, so Casey Jones makes perfect sense. And then at the end it was like, Also available like co-op with 6 people. I'm like, that is way too many people
Yeah,
for a game like this.
that's
Like that's just
huge.
gonna be chaos, and I'm never gonna organize and get 5 other people to sit down and play this game with me.
But
Um,
the cool thing is you could.
yeah, you could. Yep, there you go.
Although what I really liked about it is like he gets in different outfits depending on which sport equipment he's using. Like when he's doing the golf club, he has like the like golf cap.
Okay, I did not look at it that closely. I did
Oh yeah, I did.
to the point that like I know he swings it like a golf club at some point in that, but I'm pretty sure it's still just a hockey puck. Like
No, he has a golf club.
okay. I thought he was just
And then
playing like he was just doing it like a Happy Gilmore kind of thing.
nope,
But
he's wearing like a golf outfit, and then the one where he's using the basketball, he has like a jersey on.
yeah, okay,
Like it's great.
cool.
Like they're going all out with this, man, and I dig it. I like the cut scene or like the cut from the game where it looks like you're finding what's the one of the Bebop and Rocksteady, one of those
Yeah.
two. It looks like they're running like they're in some sort of business office and they like rip off a suit to reveal their outfit underneath. I'm like, this game looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to see more of it. I'm stoked. I think it's going to be super fun.
Mm-hmm. Anything else from that, or do you want to move over to the Xbox Bethesda showcase?
Yeah, like we can move over to Microsoft Bethesda.
Okay.
I have a lot of feelings. I thought overall presentation wise, they did a great job. Game wise, like there was some stuff that like I am, because Xbox and Game Pass and stuff is like my secondary. It's not my primary.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm gonna have a lot of different feelings than a lot of people who their primary gaming is on Xbox or on PC with Game Pass as their like primary way of how they get games. And so I can understand, especially because I, for one, was definitely looking forward to more Xbox first party stuff. We didn't really get a whole lot of that. We got a lot of third party stuff, which is fine. I think that's totally fine. And I liked a lot of what I saw. I liked a lot of the Flintlock looked really, really cool. I'm super interested in that. Diablo, like, and I'm just gonna say this right now. Microsoft acquiring Activision Blizzard, with there's a lot of stuff that we know because we follow people in the industry, and we know that there is like what is going on currently at Activision Blizzard with the workers, the walkouts, the efforts that are going into trying to make that a better company. And unfortunately, it's coming from the bottom up. It's not coming from the top down, and so it's a struggle. It's a fight that they're going through. But I think having and when you look at Microsoft a few years ago having to go through their own purge where they had to throw out a lot of people who weren't great, and kind of like when they doubled down on diversity and inclusion, I really hope to see that same kind of attitude and policy really get taken and enforced for Activision Blizzard, so that the conditions that people work under felt that they feel safe and secure in knowing that their job is not at risk because of some just absolute asshole. But I think they're moving in the right direction for like the company is moving in the right direction with that. So I feel comfortable now talking about at least talking about I don't like, if you look at my Twitter, I don't tweet about Blizzard Activision products. I have been following the Overwatch League for the entire season and the entire end of the last season. I didn't stop watching. I just stopped talking about it on Twitter. I stopped publicly, making statements that people would I never wanted to as a public presence endorse a company through my enjoyment of their products as sort of a tacit endorsement of the company itself. That's why I didn't play Riot games for a long ass time. Because when they rescinded their agreement that they wouldn't be forcing arbitration and started forcing arbitration, I said, okay, well, I'm not playing your games anymore, even though I've just literally gotten into all of your games. Legends of Runeterra, Valorant, I was super into those. And then it's like, well, I can't be into those anymore. I can't play those games anymore. And eventually they reversed course on that, ended the forced arbitration for good. And so now I happily say that I've really enjoyed my time with Legends of Runeterra. I tried getting back into Valorant. No, thank you. The level of skill that it takes to play Valorant now, even on a casual level, is too much for me. Like the skill gap is enormous from like plebeian to person who plays every day. Like, just can't. Just not. I'm not a good enough game for Valorant.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting showcase for like Xbox happily getting into bed with known abusive companies, given the big Riot game announcement with all the Riot stuff coming to Game Pass for PC, and then all the heavy focus on Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 and the Activision Blizzard side of things. Is like, yep, I as I often do. Like, I was recording my own reactions to these things, and I was basically making offhanded, jibes at, like Rod Ferguson says, like, here, see, gameplay while, some of our favorite people, who worked on the game talk about it. I'm like, and we're gonna hope that these are the good people, not the ones that have abuse allegations on them and whatnot. For me, Riot was never an issue anyway, since I'm not like particularly keen on any of those games. Diablo, like I've enjoyed in the past. Overwatch, I infamously like played, 1 or 2 matches with or whatever when we did Extra Life a few years back, and then never again. So like Overwatch, I could care less about. Diablo 4, I'm like there's like a slight interest in wanting to play that, but I'm still kind of in the like, until there's actual like proven record that things are getting better at Activision Blizzard and it's not just stuff that got swept under the rug, I'm still perfectly fine sitting those games out. But everybody's going to have their mileage may vary on those, thoughts and discussions. And it's like, I'm also tangentially angry at Xbox because I know that this deal is going to give Bobby Kotick a huge payday, and he's going to get out without kind of having to suffer any repercussions on this, which is just absolute horseshit. So,
I mean, it is, but like, I hate to say it, but there's no universe in which Bobby Kotick doesn't get away with. Like,
I mean, a just one he was in the infinite multiverse of things. There are plenty, but
that's true. That's true. But I'm saying in our the options that were available, and I think that the options
in the universe that like capitalism has been driving for the last 40 years. Yeah, no, there's no way that he, unless like he is like found with a dead body or something like that. Yeah, he's walking away from this with just a shit ton of bank.
And it sucks. It really sucks. But if this is the fastest way to get Bobby Kotick out, which means the people who have been protected by Bobby Kotick will no longer have that protection, and they feel the pressure and get the hell out. That's my hope. But we already know that that's happened for several people who are no longer with Activision Blizzard, having to leave and resign.
Yeah, we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah, we'll see how it all plays out. But I will say that I think I want to support developers, and we've had this discussion before about like, do I feel comfortable enough to play these games? Here's the thing: you will probably continue not seeing me talk about Overwatch or Diablo or anything on Twitter. Like last week, I talked about Diablo Immortal and I played it, and we didn't really talk about this. Kind of like my personal policy on that. And it might have been and must have been pretty strange for people who follow me on Twitter and on in other places, and then all of a sudden hearing me talk about Diablo Immortal, because it's like, well, wait, Cameron, didn't you say you don't play Blizzard games?
I mean, I will say, until we were having this conversation, I had forgotten that you'd kind of taken that stand back around a lot of the Activision Blizzard stuff, and so there was a retroactive thought of like, oh yeah, I thought Cameron had basically like walked away from Blizzard, and so be it.
Hey, and here's the thing: I'm not gonna say, like, if you want to say, "Hey, Cameron, you're a hypocrite for this," that's fine. You're still not gonna hear me talk about it on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
You're still not gonna hear me talk about it, or like, because there's a difference between me talking about the things I like and the things that I do on the podcast, and I will outright say it, like, yeah, I just said it. I want to support developers on a personal level, but I am not going to be free PR for a company that does shitty things. So when I say, am I excited for Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4? Yeah, I am. Personally, on a personal level, I'm very excited for those games. I know from following people who, that makes it sound weird like I'm stalking them, but from following certain people on social media who have left Blizzard and were on those teams, especially the Overwatch team, I know from what they've said publicly that they are now allowed to say is that like the Overwatch team worked really hard to insulate themselves from abusive practices from management. Jeff, who was the lead developer for the Overwatch team, worked, from what I've read and from what I've heard from people, worked extremely hard to make sure that people were kept out of bad actors out of their line of sight, like making sure that his team was kept safe and secure. Mm-hmm. Which was what he could do. And I'm sure if Jeff could have done that for all the teams, he would have.
I mean, I will say, like, of course, he's going to be trying to put everything in the most positive light. And B, like, this is one, McCree is no longer the name of the character in the game, right? Because, like, he was one of the terrible people, and they named the character after one of the terrible people.
Well, yeah, he's one of the earliest leadership members. Like, the decision to name somebody McCree after a person internally was like a decision made by the character creation team. Mm-hmm. And he he was part of the Cosby Room group. So I don't know if him specifically was somebody who did things outside of that being part of the Cosby Room group. Because I know that they're the thing about these things, especially when we get into the kind of like minutia of it, is like there are people who were part of certain things and people who are part of other things and people who were the middle grounds of those Venn diagrams. And a lot of emphasis is put on the fact that the idea is that like everybody was part of the middle group. I don't know. I know that he was part of the Cosby Room people. I do not know if he was part of any other activities like the booze crawl through cubicles to hit on people, all of that. Like there's the multitude of allegations that were done.
I'm just saying I don't think Overwatch was successfully able to isolate themselves from those abuse problems. I just don't buy that, knowing just how terrible the industry is. I don't buy that was a real thing. I know I'm sure that like there are good eggs as there are in all these situations, but I think anything coming out about that is probably trying to do damage control and stuff.
This is coming from.
We don't need to dive down this whole rabbit hole of stuff. I mean, like, because it's coming from the guy. I imagine it's coming from the head of the game who left.
No. This information isn't coming from them. No. Okay. This is coming from a lead developer who she left.
Okay.
The company, and when she was like, "Hey, I'm leaving the company. I'll say whatever I want. I didn't sign an NDA on anything." And somebody said, please tell us about Jeff. And she said, Jeff was wonderful. He did everything he could within his power to keep us insulated and secure away from this stuff. Now, here's the thing. From what she said, it doesn't sound like he was always successful.
Yeah. Anyway, we don't need to dive down and retread that whole rabbit hole of stuff.
Let's climb our way back.
I will say, just as a final note on the Overwatch thing, I also, while I had some of that stuff going through my head, I was also like, whenever a character was shown, I was like, oh, I'm just thinking of them through the lens of that like matrix that they created to be like, this is how diverse these characters are.
Yep. Hey, that is accurate. That is, you can definitely put that and pin that through all of their characters. And it's like, that entire thing is still a massive issue.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I don't publicly endorse or talk about things.
Yeah.
And it's because I don't want to be people to be like, oh, well, if Cameron supports them, it's cool. I want to support developers, and I will do that in my own way on a personal level. I will say that I'm very sad and disappointed with how shitty of a company Activision Blizzard has been, that I can't fully say, dude, I can't wait for day and date drop. Can't wait. Mm-hmm. I can wait. And I hope that things do continue to change.
Oh, also, did we know that the game was going to be free to play? Was that a known thing before
Overwatch
this?
2, that had been long rumored for like probably last like 6 months.
Okay. Because, yeah, it was like, I don't know what is the news out of this because I don't follow the game well enough. So it was like, okay, so it's free to play. It's coming out October 4th. I'm guessing those are like the big things that they were hitting on this.
Yeah, October 4th release date, like actual release date for the PvP side of things. Once again, to remind people, they split the PvE thing that they've been promising away from the PvP in order to be able to ship the product this year rather than have it be delayed again, internally anyway. And then, let me think here, what else? And then Diablo 4, like we knew about Diablo 4, we knew about the classes that had already been selected. This is kind of a confirmation that the last class is going to be Necromancer, which is my main.
Yeah, that was like, oh, I didn't know, like, I did not know that they'd already announced all the other 4. I did not. So when they're like, Necromancer is our 5th and final class, I was like, hey, aren't there usually more classes? But B, oh, I didn't realize that you had all the other 4 already pegged out. Like, it doesn't surprise me or anything like that. But
the Diablo 4 announcement, and this, of course, I wrote an article, which I found out actually still exists. It's just because I got deleted from the from like access to the site.
It's just now under like staff or whatever.
Yeah, well, it's just not labeled with an author. The Bribery at BlizzCon article is, you can still find it if you Google that with Handsome Phantom. But the Bribery at BlizzCon that was part of it. Overwatch 2, Diablo 4, and I'm trying to remember what the third one was. There was another one that was like a big, like basically, hey, look at these shiny things that we're promising you, so you'll ignore the Hong Kong controversy. Yeah, it was a whole thing. That was, yeah, that article, I don't know, because the guy who I made look like a treasure goblin is no longer with the company, so who knows if that would keep me from working there. That was always my joke, was like, I will never get a job at Blizzard because I wrote that article. Because all I have to do is Google and that'll show up.
Warcraft, I'm guessing, would have been the other one, right? That was probably like
the Warcraft 3,
like the original.
Dude, that was just such a massive trash fire when it came out too. Anyway, so I like Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2 looked cool. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay. Real quick, I just want to jump in, like, as we're talking about this, I'm like, and talking about these, shitty workplace environments, I'm realizing, like, I've got the Borderlands thing on my sleeve.
Oh, yeah.
And wearing the border, like, I fully think Randy Pitchford is a piece of shit, and have no problem saying and repeatedly saying that kind of thing. And so, feel free to throw hypocrite my way too, because I'm wearing a Borderlands shirt that I got from a PAX, like, conference or something like that. And fully understand that everybody has their, where they draw the line and where they're sometimes happy to step over that line. Yeah. And it's like, admittedly, probably theoretically worse in my case, because like we've gotten enough hints about the like bonus structure and the finances at Gearbox that I know that like my money is like 40% of that is going to Pitchford or whatever, and then the other percent of it goes to 2K and the staff or whatever. It's like it's egregious, like, oh, he's getting way more of my dollars than admittedly, like a developer at an EA or a Blizzard or an Activision or whatever is getting like a couple cents for whatever, for millions of copies that are sold or whatever. They got paid already, so they do not actually need us to buy the games. They're not making bank off of some kind of profit sharing deal or whatever. But anyway, I will say, like, the those two announcements is just like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, they're like, this is a reminder that they're gearing up to acquire Activision Blizzard. Yep, that's there's a thing there. I will say, like, the Riot one, I was like, oh, that's interesting. None of that really matters to me.
It's not going to matter to anybody because, like, that stuff isn't going to even come out till next year.
The Riot stuff? The
Riot stuff.
Did they announce that doesn't hit until 2023?
Yep. On the presser that got sent out over Twitter, there's an image of the stuff that's expected to come out this year and the stuff that's been slated for next year.
Got it. I just didn't catch. I didn't, like, because they also show that during the graphic or whatever, or during the showcase. I just didn't catch, like, oh, those are coming to Game Pass in 2023. that seems like a very early preemptive announcement for that, but okay. Um, any other games or big highlights from Xbox Bethesda?
Oh yeah, for sure. Let me think. I mean, Starfield. I was really kind of like excited by what I saw from Starfield.
Mm-hmm.
I'm stoked. I think that that's going to be really awesome. I can't wait to play it. I'm sad it's getting delayed, but hey, a delayed game is better than a broken game shipped too early.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I went into this like already pretty much knowing I'm gonna play Redfall, and I'm gonna
Oh,
play
Redfall, yeah.
um uh, uh Starfield like when they come out. So like none of that was like news or or shocking to me or anything like that. But I liked what I saw from each of those games, and I was like, yep, this is what I want this to be. I will say with Starfield in particular, I like from what they showed, they are clearly trying to step up their first person shooter abilities off of the much maligned. Obviously, the reason VATS is a thing is because they're not good shooters in Fallout, and then Fallout 76, of course, doesn't have the luxury of that. So a lot of people were like, "This just doesn't feel good." So it seems like they're trying to increase that element of their game. So I would still much prefer a VATS kind of thing in there, but whatever. We'll see what we get.
I just think it's super. I've really just like the idea that you can build outposts and stuff and like fill it up with people that you meet and like have a cool ship that you design yourself. I'm super stoked for all. I can't wait to see what.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. Like Starfield, so much of Starfield was hitting as like, oh, they're taking like these elements from Skyrim, they're taking these elements from the Fallout games, they're taking like they're picking and choosing all of the things they want to do, and probably really mad that No Man's Sky keeps adding all these updates that just, and like, because so much of this was like, oh yeah, that's a thing I know that you can do in No Man's Sky, that's a thing that looks like No Man's Sky, that's a thing that looks like No Man's Sky. So yeah, I get like it won't feel as new and fresh as I think they originally wanted it to when they first started formulating and pitching that game. But my biggest thing is really like, I hope that the extra time that they're putting into it and that the resources that Xbox is putting behind it will prevent it from having the usual Bethesda jank. Because I think, as we talked about, I think last week or a couple weeks ago, I think if it comes out with the like typical Bethesda jank in a post Cyberpunk world, I think it will get raked through the coals. I don't think people are going to stand for that anymore. So yep. I hope it works out well.
Me too.
Any other big notable things? What'd you think of Persona coming to Xbox?
Good for them.
Yeah.
Like one thing I will say is a lot of people are like, I saw a lot of people saying, well, why Persona 3 Portable instead of Persona 3 Fez? The answer is because Persona 3 Portable is the best version of Persona, and I will die on the hill. You get a female protagonist that you can choose to opt into with completely different kinds of social links and storylines that you get for the all the characters. Not shoehorning the female cast in that game into being like forceful. Because here's the thing, back in Persona 3, if you wanted to get a max social link, you had to romance the character. If romance was available for it, you had to. There was no like way of choosing not to, which was implemented in Persona 4. And so all these girls ended up just becoming love interests by the end of their social links. The Persona 3 Portable allowed for much deeper friendship with these girls in exchange for like, and so you got a level of depth that was beyond just like, in the end, you're going to be my girlfriend. And it became, in the end, like we actually delve and deal with like your serious issues. So for me, Persona 3 Portable has always been the definitive version of it. Will you be able to run around the game? No, you won't. The PSP was not powerful enough to fully port over. It's no Vita.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't port over the entire.
Even in Persona 4 Golden, it is not like you running around these giant worlds or whatever. It's like limited space. Like Persona 5 like Royal is the like leap in terms of like running through Shibuya and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, like, as somebody who didn't know the differences between the Persona 3 games, I'm largely just like, oh, I'm interested and excited for the opportunity to play Persona 3. As I tweeted out, I'm very curious because these seem like games that would have been shoe-ins for the PlayStation Plus like premium backwards compatibility,
Mm-hmm.
the old versions of games, especially if they are like porting them to modern consoles or PC like they already had done with PS4 or Persona 4 Golden rather. Um, uh, I'm very curious if they'll be there, and there's also an element of specifically that Persona 5 Royal is coming out first, and then P3 and P4 aren't coming to Xbox Game Pass until next year. Makes me think that maybe there still is for like some kind of like exclusivity deal. They're going to be on PlayStation for a while first, and then Atlas will bring them to Xbox. But I suppose we'll find out more about that in a couple weeks or in a
Yep.
week. Yeah, it's now right around the corner. 2 days from now is when like the PlayStation Plus finally updates. So,
For real though, I will also say it will be the Ultimate Collection when they get Persona 4 Dancing All Night.
on Xbox,
Yeah,
sure.
that's my first platinum, Trevor. That's my first platinum.
Your first platinum was Persona 4 Gold, like you're dancing all night. Wow.
Yep.
I do not have the platinum for that one. I have the platinum for Persona 5 dancing, I think. I don't remember. Maybe I do have it for Persona 4. I'll have to check. Because like
you have you have to unlock everything in the store, and then you also have to complete like you have to complete hard mode, not ultra hard mode, but you have to complete every song through hard.
Yeah, I remember there was like there was something where I was like, oh, I'm never gonna get that because these are way too hard. But then it was like, oh, but you can do it with like the boost cheats on or whatever it was there. I'm looking it up now. While I do that, any other games from Xbox Bethesda you want to give some love to?
I mentioned Flintlock. I really liked what I saw from Flintlock. I liked the idea of what it was doing there. I'm very curious to see more about that and more about that world because it does seem pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think, I'm not a big. I've never played A Plague's Tale, so I'm not too keen for the sequel.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think if there's anything else from that showcase that I was just like, whoa, because there was a lot of really cool stuff, but I like the things that we were all kind of hoping for were first party. Like, where's the Xbox first party? That's kind of been the big question hanging over every Xbox conference for the last 2 years.
Since they started like acquiring up everybody, it's like, okay, they got to start releasing games sometime. And yeah, every year comes and goes. And it's like, where are the games they've been working on for 6 years? I have the platinum for Persona 5 Dancing and Starlight. I do not have the platinum for Dancing All Night. And always agonizingly, I do not have the platinum for Persona 4 Golden because that stupid Risei trophy. But I have platinums for Persona 5, Persona 5's Dancing and Starlight, and Persona 5 Royale. The only Persona 5 one I do not have here is Persona 5 Strikers. But I do have one trophy for it, I think. Two trophies. I have 2 trophies for Persona 5 Strikers. Like I will say on the Xbox first party side of things, we knew like basically between when you and I made our predictions and when this thing came out, the like Hot Wheels expansion had leaked on the Steam storefront. So I was like, well, I know that's coming at least, and I'll get like my half a point in predictions for that. It looked so much cooler than I was expecting it to look.
Oh my gosh, it looks so cool.
I'm super excited to hop into that playground next month when that one comes out.
Dude, it looks rad as hell.
Yeah. Are you a Hollow Knight person?
No, I couldn't get into it. I've tried on 3 different occasions.
Yeah.
Really put some time into it. It's never really clicked for me as a game that like I like it should. It's aesthetically it's awesome. It's really cool, but I just also think that it is like that one is it's just not for me.
Yeah.
Like it's just not for me.
I tried it once because there were so many people that were, talking it up, and I was like, all right, I'll pick it up. It was like on a sale or something like that. I picked it up, put in, 30 minutes into it, and I was like, oh, it's one of these kinds of games. Pass. And and bounced off of it. But I know a lot of people are excited for Silksong. Surprised it still didn't get a date.
I'm not. That's just punish everybody who wants Silk Song.
Fair.
Like, like it's. When I saw that it didn't have a date, I was like, oh, I can't. Like, I already know Moises, Andy, so many people are just going to be like, why? Like, why do you do this to us? Like, it looks great. I think it looks awesome. I'm excited for the people who love Hollow Knight that they'll be getting a sequel. It's very much in the like Spelunky 2 camp for me. Like, this game just really couldn't get into it, but I'm really, really happy people are going to be getting a sequel.
Yeah. We're getting a new game from Justin Roiland that screams
that one looks
Rick and Morty and Trover Saves the Universe and all that stuff. Like it screams Justin Roiland.
Yeah. It's very. I really actually like that. Yeah, the concept and idea of it. It looks very, very fun.
I think it looks fun. I think it will get old incredibly quickly, with all of your guns talking and never shutting up. That's like, I remember. Well, there's like a side mission in Cyberpunk 2077 where you pick up a gun. It's like, oh, I just never want to use this gun because it won't shut the hell up. And there were a couple in like Borderlands games over the years that have done that kind of thing. It's just like, no, the gimmick wears out very quickly. Like, it works fine in a 2-minute trailer here. I do not want to spend a 10-hour shooter game with Justin Roiland talking at me. But
that's fair. I thought it looked fun. I really liked the creativity of the guns that they were using.
Yeah.
And the one where he goes, oh, those are my babies.
Yeah. Don't worry, I can make more. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll die soon. Don't worry, I can make more. Like, yeah. I'm like, that's just Justin Roiland's comedy on that. Really fun.
Yeah. One that I saw that, especially after our recent My Time at Sandrock conversations, I think Lightyear Frontier seems like it's going to be in that vein of like, you're in a mech, but you're building a farm out and improving the surroundings and stuff like that. It seems like it's going to be like a farm builder kind of thing, but in a future sci-fi kind of setting.
I dig it. I'm so into it. It's so cool.
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, yes, more please. I like that you have like you crash land on this planet. You got to survive, and I like that aspect of it. It looks really cool.
Yeah. Ravenlock seems like it's basically just an Alice in Wonderland story. So like, I was very surprised when it was called Ravenlock at the end. But yeah, it'll be. I'm iffy on that one.
I'm very. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm lukewarm. Like, there's something about it that could be really cool. I'm just not sure yet about how I feel about it. Like, its vibe is cool. I'm not sure how the game itself is going to feel.
Yeah. We didn't get Outer Worlds 2 like you were hoping, but we did get another Obsidian game because they're just working on so many damn games. Not Avowed. We didn't see Avowed here at all, but we got Pentiment, which has like a cool art style of like, the 12th century monks or whatever, like that kind of like old Englishy kind of aesthetic. I was like, oh, that's it. Like, that feels like a game that started with like, what's an art style that nobody's ever played with? Let's do that, and let's figure out a game from there. Is how that presents itself to me. But obviously, I know it's by by one of the heads of Josh Sawyer, who was like the lead on Fallout New Vegas, Pillars of Eternity. So it should have fun RPG elements to it. But yeah, it looked to me like a art design first, and then we'll figure out a game from there kind of vibes.
It's a murder mystery.
Yeah.
I'm super interested in it. At first I was like, I don't know about this, but then I found out that it's a murder mystery. I was like, so you're saying Obsidian made a murder mystery game in a fun art style? Yeah, I'm down. I'm into it.
Yeah. Speaking of murder mystery, we also had that the last case of Benedict Fox, I think.
Mm-hmm. Nailed it.
Which, I thought it surprised. Yeah. I remember that trailer, that name coming up. I was like, oh, that's good. Like, that gives like What Remains of Edith Finch vibes in terms of name. And I was like, I wonder how well I'm going to remember that. And then apparently it is memorable enough that I was able to pull it from nothing. So that one looks a little too Cthulhu-y to me in terms of like
a little too spoopy for Trevor.
Not spoopy so much as like I always forget the guy's name.
H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, there you go. Too Lovecraftian. like I just typically just don't gel with those vibes, or and like slash design stuff. There was
Plasma
also that one that
core.
was like
Yeah.
the undead, like first person thing where like you rip out your umbilical, your zombie umbilical
Oh,
cord or whatever.
Scorn.
Yeah, that one. I was like, nope, just straight up nope on
Scorn
this
is
one.
weird, man. Scorn. I remember when Scorn was first, like, they had a Patreon that they were doing. They used to advertise on Easy Allies podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Scorn's weird, man. Scorn's weird.
Yeah.
It's creepy. It's like cryptidy. It's crawly. Like, good for them. I'm glad that they're getting the backing to like really make this game like like soar. But like it is 100% not my.
Yeah.
Too much body horror. Like just too much body. Can't get in.
I'm intrigued by what we're gonna get with As Dusk Falls, starring, of course, our friend Alex Van Aken,
Alex Van Aken,
as you tweeted, as well as many others tweeted about.
Oh, I didn't
or yeah,
actually tweet about it.
Sorry,
I
you went to
replied,
tweet
yeah.
about it, and then had already seen the replies, and then I was like, I specifically didn't because I knew all of our friends would be making the same joke. But yes, that one like just narratively looks like it's got narrative. Seems like it's got cool vibes, and then like I'm very intrigued by the like what they're doing with the animation style of like they clearly like shot this in live action or whatever and have basically just like taken moments of the action to do like photo, like artistic interpretations of those scenes and stuff like that. So yeah, it's gonna be a day one Game Pass in a month, so look forward to checking that out. Yeah, I think that's. Oh, we didn't get Kojima at Summer Game Fest, but we got Kojima here.
Yep.
So that confirms that, like, yeah, that presumably that Overdose game that leaked is this game, and they didn't show it here. Maybe in part because of the leak, or maybe because they were so stressing, like everything you're going to play here is you're going to play within the next year, and that
I think that was
is very much not that kind of thing.
I don't think they would have shown off a trailer or anything. I think the announcement was that because of the policy that they had, this one was going to be the next 12 months.
Yeah.
I think that and also it's entirely possible that is, I was listening to somebody say it, I think it was the Kind of Funny guys, but it's entirely possible that trailer was an internal trailer for a pitch.
Yeah.
For a potential game that they could make. Because that's what happens. Like when they're like, hey, what kind of game are we going to make? Like it could be a game like what we saw with that trailer.
Yeah.
But it also could be completely different. Like, but granted, if you had showed me an actual like concept trailer for what Death Stranding would actually be, I would have said, there's no way the guy who made Metal Gear is gonna make a walking sim. But lo and behold,
he
did.
Go.
And not only that, I gave it an 8.5 out of 10.
Indeed. Yeah. Forza Motorsport got a trailer in the similar vibe as Forza Horizon did, but I'm just way much more excited and interested in Forza Horizon. But still a really cool trailer, or I guess not trailer, like the gameplay showcase of like, we're going to do this all in one shot, one uncut take, and we're going to show you all the different things about Forza Motorsport that we want to show. Like, cool. Not a game for me, but very cool. So yeah, I don't think there was anything else I had that I wanted to highlight or jump on.
I'm good.
So yeah, overall, I like overall Xbox Bethesda I think was a much better paced and better presentation show. Even though it still didn't have a ton of games. I think I'm largely in the same boat as you, obviously, in that like Xbox is not my like primary like go-to. I'm going to play game. If I'm going to play games, I'm going to play them here. Like the balance is getting tipped a little bit more so, just because of the amount of things I check out on Game Pass, largely because I'm trying to do 2 Let's Plays every week, and need to figure out things to play. But yeah, like enough of these are, I'm intrigued enough that I'll check it out for a Let's Play or something like that. And then whether or not it gets its teeth sunk in me, I'm a little less so. Skyfall's a big one. The Hot Wheels expansion is going to be a lot of fun to hop into, and obviously,
you mean Redfall?
Yeah, sorry, Redfall. Yes, thank you. Stupid Bond on my brain. I'm also like I'm my interest is piqued in their civilization like that they showed off, the Ara or Era history unfolded or untold. But like we didn't see gameplay on that one, so I don't really know
Yeah,
what it's about, what that one's
I
going to be
need
like.
gameplay to get that. Although Blessing saying "ara ara" on the Kind of Funny watch along, did things for me I was not expecting.
Okay. You got your Vin Diesel in freaking Arc 2. Yeah.
Once again, not actual gameplay. Who cares? Although they did have Velociraptors with feathers, and that pissed Greg Miller off, and that made me happy.
Nice. I will say, Grounded, it seems, is going to have like a story mode. So I'm intrigued.
Grounded,
I'm gonna check that out. If I'm like have not had any desire to hop into like the multiplayer elements of that, but if it has like a little campaign, yeah, I'll check that out on Game Pass. Sure.
I'm super interested in Grounded. When they introduced that, it's like, because I thought it was just like Honey We Shrunk the Kids kind of like playground game, like sandbox type game. I didn't know that there was like actual like base building and crafting and a story behind it. Like, I'm super interested. That sounds awesome.
Yep.
Also, shout out to Obsidian for like after their first debut of it saying, "Oh, people have arachnophobia," and implementing arachnophobia.
Yeah, I thought
which turns spiders into just blocks.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I thought they launched in early access with that functionality.
Oh, they did.
Yeah,
they did. But I'm just saying, shout out to them for that, because that was always like, to me will always be like a very like unique accessibility feature that was very, very cool for them to do.
Yeah, there were a couple games. I don't remember which one I'm thinking. I guess maybe a Plague Tale, maybe it was it was definitely in Scorn, and then maybe also in Flintlock. There were like a lot of spiders in the showcase, and I was like, I felt bad for our friend Cam Hawkins, who's serious arachnophobe there, and there was definitely like a vibe of like, oh yeah, I don't really want to play those games either. I don't really I'm not out here to jam with bugs. So I might explore the arachnophobia mode if and when I hop into Grounded. But yeah, I will say, like, for me overall, a little lackluster, and there was very much, I think, a vibe across both these shows of like, yep, we're still feeling the like, the effects of 2 years of working from home and the industry not knowing how to readjust and recover from that yet. With as many games that either don't have dates or are like obviously still not imminent.
I will say that I found it very interesting how many studios have said that they're not going back to the office anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
How many are still work from home or have work from home as just like a totally normal option.
Yeah.
I think they've adjusted themselves. I just think that we still just have not seen the gap that we got from COVID hitting and the force from work from home and getting everybody situated with that. We're probably off by anywhere from 8 months to maybe even up to a year of delay because of that. So like, I can understand people's frustration, especially Xbox fans who wanted, like, for Trevor and I, like, Xbox Showcase was like a really good showcase. Like, we really enjoyed it. But if your primary path to gaming is Xbox, I can understand why you might be at least a little like disappointed with the showcase.
I mean, I would say, like, I think in both situations, if you're Xbox or your PlayStation, third parties have been doing the bulk of the heavy lifting this generation so far. It's nice that Xbox like has made enough partnerships with a lot of those third parties that like you get them as part of Game Pass. But yeah, like thinking back on the games I've picked up on PlayStation, not a ton of them are first party stuff. This year we had, obviously a standout with Horizon. And, we'll see where, if God of War manages to somehow hit this year or not. And then last year we had
fat fucking chance. I'm saying it now. Fat chance. Like, everybody who's like, nope, the rumors are fake. It's definitely coming out this year.
I mean, there are rumors on both sides of that one, you dumbass. But also, you don't need to shit on people just to shit on people, Cameron. Oh, there was a tweet of yours that I have screenshotted because we occasionally talk about like the idea that like you're way too overly familiar with these people who don't know who you are. And you tweeted at Gary Whitta something about like, get fucked, old man, or something like that. And I was like, if Gary Whitta blocks Cameron for this, I will not be surprised at all. um, yeah. Anyway, I
But
like.
as a note, Gary Whitta has not blocked me.
There you go.
Uh,
That he just did not see it.
yeah, he probably just didn't
Because
see it.
he's definitely blocked people for worse. Or for less.
Or for less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was it has been a slow start to this generation, I think. And a lot of that is being supplemented by third party stuff, and I think Xbox has made some clever strategic partnerships with third parties to help bridge the gap. Obviously, much like they did last year, like a lot of this is built around this roadmap of we're gonna have big Game Pass games hitting every month for the next 12 months, effectively, to keep you subscribed, to keep you engaged. So please keep buying, keep paying for Game Pass, because we need to start having that turn a profit or whatever. But yeah,
I will say, Matt, like the adoption rate that people have had for Game Pass after they announced it, what, 4 years ago?
They definitely have a leg up on PlayStation Plus and what PlayStation Plus is doing right now, and what PlayStation Plus has to like convince its audience of, like, this is how it's better than, or even like just this is how it's equivalent to Game Pass. I think there's going to be I think we're going to see a lot more like deals over the next couple of years of like, this game is coming to PlayStation Plus versus this game is coming to Game Pass. And it'll be interesting to see what hits day one in each of those locations. And obviously, like, Xbox out here throwing their money around, making those moves with your Riot games, with a lot of EA Blizzard stuff, or Activision Blizzard stuff rather, in the coming months. Yeah, be interesting to see. Those are our general thoughts on the big showcase, big showcases from this last week. So let us switch over. While we've had all that going on this last week, as I mentioned a little bit last week, been playing and enjoying my Steam Deck, and specifically this last week, I've been enjoying a lot of Rogue Legacy 2 on my Steam Deck. I finished up Portal 2 last week, and was like, all right, I'm looking for something else to check out. I really loved Rogue Legacy on like the Vita, and Rogue Legacy 2 launching recently. I was like, yeah, I'll go ahead and pick that up on Steam Deck, and have been staying up way too late, many nights in the last week, just doing like the one more round thing of Rogue Legacy 2. It's a lot of the fun gameplay of the first game, and the like pretty much all the same fun mechanics. This one, admittedly, like, it's been so long since I played the first one, I don't remember all the like ins and outs of it. But you have seemingly a wider variety of heirs as you go into your dungeon each time, where you might get you'll start with your standard soldier or archer, or thief, assassin type or whatever, but then you'll start unlocking a bard who uses a lute, and and kind of can kick some ass with a lute, or a boxer. I got a gunslinger, occasionally making the rounds, Valkyries, chefs, just a big old like breadth of different character types. And much like with Hades, they're all fun to play with. There are definitely some where I have like my favorites, but like if I, am going to get this much more gold because of, a trait on a bard, I'll check that out and see how that's going to play. And maybe I'll just make that. I won't, the bard, I'm not going to be able to take out a boss with, but I can clear out a crap ton of like just standard rooms and make a bunch of bank to come back and build up my castle at the end of the run. And so yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with that. I'll probably sit down. I've beaten the game once. I've beaten the game, and then as it is a roguelike, basically at that point you can like start fresh with new modifiers on, so you get more money, and you get like you basically, the higher the risk, higher reward kind of stuff. So I've started doing kind of my like a second run through of the game, taking out a couple bosses on that already. I'm without shame, embracing the game has what they call house rules, which is effectively their Celeste-esque like accessibility or approachability options. You can't do like full don't take any damage, but you can basically like bring damage from from baddies down to like 50%, or bring damage down, bring the damage enemies do down, bring their health down, or you can increase them if you want to give yourself a bigger challenge. And then there are a few other kind of miscellaneous things you can kind of tweak, to as opposed to like the default set. And I've definitely like gone in and been like, all right, I'm not progressing through this game as much as I would like or as quickly as I would like. So I'm going to drop some of these levels down and see how that, tweaks things around. I will say, like, even doing that, as soon as I start a second run, at that, like, theoretically only added like a couple little minor modifiers to like the health and damage that enemies do. They are immediately kicking my ass, even with all those other things, tweaked down. So, it's a weirdly good like blend of like, even if you make it easier for yourself, there's still going to be challenge there.
Mm-hmm.
Until you like start leveling up or acquiring new gear and equipment, and kind of improving your characters as you go. And yeah, it's much like the first game. It has a lot of fun little traits that you can get. One, I think my favorite one, I will say, usually the game will basically give you like, hey, we're going to give you a bad trait, but the trade-off is you're going to collect 25% more gold or 50% more gold or something like that. My favorite trait that I got was basically, what do they call it? Like, it was effectively, they didn't say BTS, but it's basically like you're a BTS fan. And there's no drawback to that. Like, but you still get a shit ton of extra gold for it. It's like, it is easily the best trait of the game, because like the bad traits are like you're colorblind, which can come in, really bad for some of the sequences and some of the fights you need to do or something like that. Or you don't see enemies, you just see shapes, and so all the enemies just appear on the screen as a black, blob. Or one of the funniest ones is like lewd or something, and basically every enemy is censored and blurred. So those ones that make it much harder to just go through the dungeons and kill things, you'll get those perks. But yeah, then there's one that you get like you get the money boost perk for, but nothing bad is happening to you, and it's like FBF fan or something like that. And it says like you're probably Korean or whatever, and like just from the context clues, I'm like, okay, I feel like this is just like I'm a K-pop stan is kind of like what this character is. It's like they also have I don't think they call it like gay or gay or lesbian like they did in, I think, the last one, but it's like it's the same thing of like, this is just a thing about you. It doesn't affect gameplay at all. And I don't think that one has like a boost to it, but this like seemingly K-pop stan one does, where you just get like a shit ton extra gold. I'm like, oh, that was cool. Like, I picked it up just because I wanted the gold boost, and also once you like use these traits, it will show you like, here's what the description is for the next time. Because the first time you like select a trait, it's all in question marks, and you don't necessarily know what the punishment is going to be to go alongside it. So yeah, I was like, all right, that one's going to give me extra gold, I'm going to take that one. And then it was like, oh, there's just no drawback to this one. Because even the thing said like the descriptor for it was something about like being Korean maybe. And I was like, okay, so does that mean like when I go into a menu or something like that, or when I go into like text, I'm not going to be able to understand it. It's all going to be in a foreign language. And it's like, nope, there just is no change that I was able to discern in terms of the gameplay on that. But yeah, it's lots of fun mechanics. And it does the thing that, a good roguelike should of draws you in, and you always have that like, I just want to do one more run, or I'm gonna do one more run, and I'm gonna make this run about trying to just get as much money as I can, or about trying to find as many like of the little hidden unlockables that I can, or I'm just gonna do this run and gonna go straight for the boss. I've cleared out the first 3 bosses. So instead of going through each of those sections, I'm just going to jump to the teleport for the 4th section that I've unlocked by paying gold and just go from there. And yeah, it's just been a lot of fun, and it is much like the first game was great on Vita. It is entirely too fun to just be playing it there in bed on my Steam Deck, big old screen and all. So
how does it play though with the Steam Deck?
Yeah, really. I mean, really good. Steam Deck, Steam Deck controls are a little odd in that like it's using the PlayStation, like the sticks aren't offset, but they're like both at the top. So I mean, it's definitely a minor tweak and a little weird controller scheme setup, but like it usually feels great. I will say the one thing that I think is going to be a problem on any control scheme that you play on this is when you have a hero that uses aiming, so like a ranger or a gunslinger. I'm almost never as precise as I want to be with those shots. So I end up like missing a lot of shots that I shouldn't miss, which ends up, costing me because the enemy does damage to me and gets through or something like that when I'm like, oh, I should have hit him with that, versus like me just swinging my sword and stuff. Like those always feel great. The trade-off is, I don't have to be as close necessarily with one of those ranged ones, but it's definitely I know I miss more shots than I feel like I should, just because of the angles and the sensitivity of stuff. But again, I think that would be an issue on any kind of controller because it's very much like designed for have the mouse cursor where you want it aimed to take that shot. But yeah, other than that, I think that's really the only. It's been, I think, the only downside with like the control scheme element of the game is just some of those pieces aren't always the most controller friendly. And I would say also like just I would say I appreciate that in this in particular, a lot of the like a lot of the moves, they give you multiple button options for it. So like one move that you can do is basically it is the did you play the messenger?
No.
Okay. It's basically like a spin kick. So you jump in the air, and if you like kick or hit, basically if you attack a thing, you can basically like it will give you a second jump on top of that.
Okay.
Eventually you can unlock like a proper double jump or whatever, but like the spin kick element that exists in a lot of other games, but like the one I think of it is from the messenger.
That was in the original Rogue Legacy, like where you press down when you're attacking something, and you can like
so
hop off of them.
Yeah. I guess I just didn't remember it from there. But yeah, so that's in here, and you can still do like a down attack will do it, or if you do, I think LB, you can also like you can do that. RB has a couple like there are a couple buttons that will like one of them is RB. So like if I didn't have to be like worrying about I'm going to try and attack this guy, so I don't want to have to be switching between the A and the X button to do like the double jump thing there, the spin kick jump that I need to do. So being able to just tap whatever other button on the shoulders was beneficial, and that's just how I ended up approaching it. Pretty sure all of that's probably also remappable, because that's one of the big things with the Steam Deck is you can switch up your control scheme if you want, but I've not dug into the weeds on that element myself. I started to try and go through kind of here's how you add Xbox Cloud gaming to your Steam Deck. And I will say that like that involves going out to the desktop and then like downloading and like editing some stuff. And I will say that at that level, the keyboard built in, I talked about this a little bit last week, talking about like the Final Fantasy VI stuff. But the keyboard, the built-in digital keyboard of the Steam Deck is shit. It will respond and you will hear the click of like typing things, but a lot of the time, especially when I'm using it on the touchpad, what I'm noticing is like if it senses at all that like my finger moved when I tap the thing, it's treating it like a cursor move or something like that, and so it doesn't actually key in. So like I was trying to type in like a command prompt to do something for the cloud gaming, um, and I typed everything in, and also I couldn't just like the keyboard opened on the side of the screen that like that the command prompt was in, so I couldn't see what I was writing as I was writing. It didn't like default to the other side of the screen for me, and I was like, I couldn't figure out how to move it. So
The hell?
like that is shitty and is not great. And then when I finally did like close my keyboard down to look at the command prompt, only like half the things I typed had gotten in there, so it was just a garbled mess. So I've kind
That
of put that
sucks.
project on hold until I can figure out. Let me just hook up a Bluetooth keyboard or something to it, and and just do it with a physical keyboard, mouse and keyboard for some of those updates and tweaks and stuff like that. And I imagine if I get into adding any kind of like emulation stuff, I'll want the same kind of like just let me. If I'm gonna treat this like a PC, I need to actually like hook it up like a PC to do that, and then unplug it and then use it in handheld mode after that. But yeah, that's like the keyboard just being a shitty keyboard is easily like the worst thing of the Steam Deck so far. But other than that, it is just still a ton of fun and a joy, and it also gets very very warm. So so I do have to kind of like keep it like away from me a little bit, so it's not just like making the mattress of my bed extra warm if I'm like trying like as I'm like I don't want to like put the thing away and then like lay my head down and be sweating because of how warm it is. But yeah, other than that, Steam Deck real fun. Rogue Legacy 2 real fun, and easily I mean, again, admittedly, from where we're at so far in this year, it is on my Game of the Year list by default. But I can
Mm-hmm.
also easily see it staying on the list throughout the year because very, very much fun with that one. So that is Rogue Legacy. Any other questions or anything from you, Cam?
No, I was super curious about it. I'm very excited for you that Steam Deck. Like, what kind of opportunities you're going to be able to use that?
Yeah. So lastly, in addition slash sometimes while I've been playing Rogue Legacy, I've been revisiting The Wire, as I mentioned at the top. Obviously one of them real good TV shows. And just celebrated its 20th anniversary. So I was like, I have HBO Max. Let me go back and rewatch some of The Wire stuff. And admittedly, like the first season of The Wire always felt extra dated because it was, so focused on pagers because it was, about a case from like the late 80s or something like that, but they did it, in the early 2000s. So that feels extra dated now. Even when it's not talking about pagers, it's the police officers like writing up reports on typewriters and shit. It's like, oh yeah, this feels
Mm-hmm.
really, really old. And it's also fascinating watching it through the lens now of like, a cab or, like all of the like police corruption and, defund the police conversations and stuff like that. And like, there's definitely a lot of like, yeah, fuck the police on this. And I find myself more siding with your Omar Littles of the world or something like that, or even D'Angelo Barksdale. But I think like this was a show that kind of always had that element. Like even the cops aren't saints. They're always,
Oh yeah.
they're like, this never was a show that was like trying to, aggrandize them. Like, they were shitty and, the show basically oftentimes makes them suffer for their shittiness.
Oh yeah. Like they are punished far more than police are actually punished in real life.
Yeah. But yeah, show still really just great. There are just so many, like I'm almost done with the first season. And like just immediately like, Lester Freeman coming back. I'm like, he's just one of those all-time great characters. I like,
Mm-hmm.
and like Presbalewski coming in and just being like the absolute worst kind of cop
Mm-hmm.
initially, and knowing the arc that he's going to go on and knowing when he's going to get to like, really find himself behind the desk, and then in later seasons and kind of other roles and stuff like that. Like they just do such a great job of like giving everybody in the show great arcs to explore and have fun with. And like you get to see like, I mean, Bubbles is, another just, I mean, the show is just filled with like all-time great characters. One of those early, one of the early standout sequences of the show is, of course, McNulty and Bunk like investigating the scene using basically only variations of the F word. And it's just such a like one of the best 5-minute scenes of television ever created, just because of the way they can tell that story with other than that no dialogue. And so yeah, it's just I'm like I'm watching this, I'm like, they do not make shows like this anymore, and that's sad.
Nope.
So
nope, they don't.
Yeah, Wire, real good stuff. Really enjoying that. Any thoughts for you to add, Wire wise?
I mean, I'm a massive fan of The Wire.
Yeah.
Especially season 1. I think season 1 is top. I think everybody would agree season 1's the best season. Gosh, it's so much that I love about it. But I think my favorite, here's the thing. I've always been a big Omar guy.
Yeah. And I mean, it's also like easily, obviously, the first time watching it since the passing of Michael K. Williams, which is, tragic, obviously gone too soon. But yeah, this easily was the first thing I would have seen him in, and was just like, oh my God, like such a great character, obviously, a character in this world, in this scenario, being depicted homosexual, was like a wildly unheard of thing at the time, kind of thing. Even nowadays, it's still like not.
Well, for the most badass person on your show,
yeah,
to be a gay black man,
yeah,
and not just because we've it's not the idea of. I think the best way to put it is he's a vulnerable gay man. He is the most badass character in the show. He is the most feared and respected person on that show, character-wise. And he is, in his life, a kind, compassionate, intelligent, just highly intellectual young man from a very rough part of the city of Baltimore. On top of that, being an outcast within his own community for being a gay black man, like being gay in the 90s. Like,
yeah,
I don't listen to a lot of DMX anymore because as I've gotten older and go back to listen to those DMX tracks, there's a metric shit ton of homophobia.
Yeah.
And it's like that in a lot of gangster rap when you go back to it, because the pejorative of using homosexuality as a put down was inundated in 80s, 90s thug gang culture.
Oh, it's in the show too. Like Stringer and
100%.
Avon are always talking about Omar in those terms.
Oh yeah, Avon, like when he puts the bounty out on Omar, he stops them before they leave and says, actually, double it because he's gay.
Yeah.
Like, there's that. And it's like, so you have this incredible character who is a vulnerable gay man in an era which just, even in polite society, would still look down on him and treat him like garbage for being gay, or at least throw incredibly horrible homophobic jokes at him in a professional setting, even. To the point where it's a threat to, it's like Avon literally doubles the bounty.
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh, that's right, he's gay.
Yeah.
Like, throw more money at it. And it's like the level of homophobia of that is intense.
I mean, even the Kima Greg's on there, also a lesbian officer in this, in the show, in the unit. Like, even that, like, I mean, I remember originally watching this and being like, this is probably one of the most diverse shows I've ever seen in terms of its cast, in large part because we're spending so much time on both sides of the coin of the drug war. We're spending so much time in the low rises there, with D'Angelo and fucking Michael B. Jordan, also, the very young Michael B. Jordan in this, killing it. And very much setting the framework for
Yeah,
the phenomenal career that guy is going to have.
Idris Elba as
Idris
Singer
Elba,
Bell
yeah,
is
early Idris Elba, Stringer Bell,
gosh,
absolutely,
Stringer Bell. Oh, sorry, I always say Stinger Bell, but it's Stringer Bell.
yeah.
Um, but also like the lines people quote from The Wire all come from the first season.
Oh yeah.
The
Well, I
if
mean,
you
yeah,
come
like,
for the king, you better not miss.
yeah,
When like there's so much that it does,
a
but
man got to
also like
have a code. Yeah.
a man got to have a code. All of that is
The fuck
the
did I
game's
do?
the
Yeah.
game. Yeah, the game's the game,
Yeah.
and it's just I love it so much, and like I love that you're going back and watching it. I watched season one again a couple years ago. Um, Back when I had HBO, what was it, HBO at home or whatever it was, not the HBO Max like it is now,
Yeah,
but
the
what was
precursor or whatever, yeah.
HBO Go, I think is what it was.
Mm.
Yeah, I watched it when I had HBO Go, like I was getting that. I watched it again, and it's just still unparalleled television.
Yeah. Like I
The
originally
yeah.
watched it in a box set. Like I missed it while
Mhm.
it was on, but I picked it up. I mean, I've never like really until like the last couple of years, I'd never had HBO, so it was always like I'll
Mhm.
watch the DVDs of the thing after the fact. Like Treme was the same thing. Like I watched Treme because I love The Wire so much, but I was not watching it live. I was watching the DVDs or the Blu-rays that were coming out after the fact. And so yeah, this is
Gosh.
one I probably haven't watched in a little while, but like it just does such a great job of like setting up dominoes and then just the gut punch as we watch them fall. Like the where I'm at in season one, Bubs just trying to get his life right, and he gets Kima's gonna help him on that path, and then shit happens, and she is not available to do that, and I know just like I'm like, oh, that's like that is a completely unintended consequence, and he's gonna get thrown back into the life because he's going to get lost in the system, and so much of that, like especially in later seasons. I remember, yeah, the like coming to it after the fact, like I would watch it, and I was also reading like Alan Sepinwall, who's one of the great like entertainment critics. Like I would read his recaps of each episode,
Nice.
kind of as I would do it, and just the analysis and insight he would kind of put on the show was always like wonderful, it served as like great companion pieces, and like knowing that like the second season much maligned because it leaves the projects and heads over to the docks and stuff, and you start that's where the next wiretap is going to be or whatever, and it obviously that is a much wider cast of characters over there in the docks.
Mhm.
So like a lot of people were thrown by the show doing that, but then I love that like really it's just like every season is just building and building and building upon
Mhm.
itself. There's still stuff in the Barksdale crew happening in that second season, and then in the third season as you go into in season 4, season 5, it's just like yeah, just so much great stuff there, and it's like awesome seeing characters pop up, and I'm like I definitely don't remember a ton of stuff from like the later seasons as much as I remember this first season, but like seeing what's his name, Steve Earle, I think, pop up as Waylon
Mhm.
in one of these early episodes as as an addict out there speaking at an NA meeting and stuff, and knowing the relationship he's going to have with Bubs over the course of the series is like love seeing those seeds get planted early on, and knowing that they're going to pay off tenfold down the line. Just a lot of fun there. I mean,
I
also like obviously Lance Reddick also like very early in him like really blowing up and now he's in like almost everything video game related. So seeing a young Lance Reddick here is always fun. I like going into this, I probably knew Dominic West the best, largely because he was in Midsummer Night's Dream, which I was in
Yep.
high school, so I had seen that movie a few times. But him as McNulty, great.
McNulty, man, what a the journey McNulty's character goes on
Mhm.
is tremendous. I love McNulty's character, especially where he ends in season 3. Season 3 I think I like a lot, but I like it a lot because it's a rule breaking season. There were rules established in season 1 and even some in season 2 that are broken in season 3. And that is the what I love about it is we are told in season 1 the game is the game. Like, it's treated as a game by the people who play it. But when you're born in the game and you're raised into the game's not a game, it's life. And we see the rise of people who the game has been their life as they come up and start taking authority in the city. And I love seeing the disregard of rules of engagement, like the rules of engagement that have lasted for several generations are now gone, because we have young people who are what is the term that they use in tech all the time? To shake things up. What do they call it?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I think we ran into this the other day where you tried to pull this and couldn't find it, and then you eventually did. Disruptors.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They disrupt the gang warfare. By not because Omar says a man's got to have a code. No man doesn't, and we learned that in season 3, and I love that. I love the season 3. I think is without a doubt the most depressing season.
Oh yeah.
Without a doubt, it is the most depressing season. Mm-hmm. But it's even to the point of where characters end up, because you're they triumph in season 1, and then it's there's no triumph in this world. There's just we set ourselves up because we want to see what do these characters look like in triumph in season 2, and we don't get that payoff. And then in season 3, we immediately find out there was no triumph.
Yeah.
They things got worse. That was also one of the shows that made me really fundamentally understand how dangerous power vacuums are. On a micro level. I know on a macro level how dangerous they can be, but how on a micro level they can deeply impact people was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. The Wire is just such a phenomenal show. If anybody listening hasn't watched it, go watch it. It is beyond phenomenal. I don't like throwing this term around a lot, but it probably is top to bottom. At least season 1 is the best season of television of all time. It's hard to say what could top season 1 of The Wire, in my opinion.
Yeah, got a lot of solid stuff in there. So shout out to that. I'm looking forward to just kind of continuing to chip through that rewatch.
Enjoy, man. I hope you enjoy.
It has been I don't know if delight is the right word, but it has been quality. It has been some quality stuff. All right. Yeah, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you, Cam, for joining me. I'm sure I'll get to talk more of these, all of the stuff from last week when I talk with Logan for this week's That News You Care About. But it was fun getting to pick your brain about this stuff tonight. Let's go around the metaphorical table we have with any plugs. You can follow Cameron at Rev Cabot. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yep, I want to give a massive shout out to That Bond Show. I know Trevor talked about it at the beginning, at the top of the show, but as it's coming to a close, actually coming to a close for you, I'm very excited to kind of when you start putting your thoughts about the entire process and the entire saga and legacy that is James Bond. I'm really curious to see what the conversation you and Logan are going to have about it. I'm very excited for that. I can't wait. And also just it's exciting. This is a project completed. Yep. It's fun.
Yeah, it was a we knew going into it that we had an end point, as opposed to these kind of podcasts where it's it's going to keep going until it keeps going. But yeah, it should be a fun one. You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey. In addition to That Bond Show, I will shout out our Let's Plays. I think one of the Let's Plays this week is probably going to be me doing a run or two of Rogue Legacy, because thanks to the wonder of cloud saves, I can also play on my PC and just load up that save and hop into my game, mid run. And then I don't know what the other. The other one this week might be the Nickelodeon All Stars. That is on PlayStation Plus this month. Basically,
Nice.
the Nickelodeon Smash Brothers game. Maybe I'll hop into that and be like, I don't know any of these characters because I'm an old fogey and I'll basically be like Powdered Toast Man because I'm like, I remember Ren and Stimpy. That's a thing from when I was a kid. But yeah, so much of that. Like I look at the splash screen, like I don't know half these characters, or like the ones that I do, like SpongeBob or Patrick, I have no real affinity for, but like I know who they are because of pop culture. But yeah, then there I was, I'm just like, this is not my Nickelodeon. But we will see, especially because they just added voice acting to that in a patch update. So
Oh, nice. That's good.
yeah,
Because that game was devoid of any actual like real substance when it came out. It's like the characters are there, but like none of the there's no voice acting. There's no music from the shows. Like it was rough when it launched.
Yeah. I'm not paying for it. So, stay tuned for Let's Plays from us every Tuesday and Thursday over on youtube.com/thatnerdysite, which is also where you can see That Bond Show. You follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us, including, I don't talk about it as much here, but every episode of That Bond Show that we've been doing has had a corresponding review of the film from Logan. So he's been doing that all year as well, in addition as like a little companion piece for every one of those episodes. They've been a thing to edit a lot of times, but he definitely his love of Bond shines through them. If you liked what you heard, once again, please rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you again for listening. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.